Get ready. Hold tight. It's
Hold on to
happening.
your hats, boys.
Libos.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week.
A little bit old for you, but
Without deep into Danny Nolan, please don't.
And he waited.
Been truly horrific having this season away from home.
I want to go.
Anyone would think that we rehearse this, and I guarantee that we haven't.
How poor do we have to be before it's happening? How much blood from this stone do we have to get?
The Wednesday Week. Hello and welcome to another episode of Questions and Answers edition of the Wednesday Week podcast. I'm your host Ash, and as always, I'm joined by Dan and Stevie to go through and look at all the lovely questions you have sent us, see if we could answer them in our own style. What do you reckon, lads?
Lovely questions. Yeah. Let's go with that.
I have a feeling that tonight might be hard.
I've even made notes.
I've actually done some proper research, and I don't feel like I'm any better on than I were an hour ago.
Well, let's get straight into it, shall we? Yeah, ready? First question from Owain of X. See, here we go. So quite a hot topic at the minute. So we'll go with, what would you do with Pierce Charles for the rest of the season? Try and find a sensible loan, leave him on the bench, hope for an FA Cup run that he could play a few games in, or start him now. So, Stevie, what's your thoughts? Pierce Charles, what should we do with Pierce Charles as now?
He is probably going to be, if we could find a player that we could sort of have as a saleable asset that's going to make a difference to the club, it's him, isn't it? It has to be him. He's probably the most sort of potentially valuable player that we've sort of produced over, let's say, the last 15 years or so. He's almost as expensive or valuable as Liam Palmer. So I'm going to throw that out there next.
Palmer costs about 15 grand, didn't he, missing that penalty?
No, jokes aside, he's had a fantastic sort of 6 months or so, hasn't he? And I know that the potential was always there, but for me, I don't think he's somebody we should be starting at the moment, because as good as he's been, I think we've, for various reasons, Beadle coming in and being our number one makes a lot of sense in terms of us being a shop window for Premier League teams to maybe farm out players to come and play for us. I know there's not a great deal of difference in terms of age between Charles and Beadle, but for me, I think he's all right as a backup. Do I want to see him go out on loan in January? Potentially. You're looking at the minute as we speak at the moment, Cadamartri's down the road at Lincoln, isn't he? And doing bits. So if we could find a loan that would be similar to that one, I think it'd make good sense to allow him to go out, raise his stock a little bit. The worry is that when we do that, or if we do that, people are going to come sniffing, and we're not going to get the market price or a comparable price for the potential and the value that he could be for us.
Dan, what's your thoughts on Pierce Charles?
Pierce Charles is an interesting one for me, because I just don't think he's the finished product yet in terms of goalkeeping. I think he's a very modern goalkeeper that's really good with his feet. And Christ, some of those times against Brentford, specifically when he came up against a quick nippy striker, there was a heart in mouth type moments where before he cleared it, before he hoofed it, but he's not afraid of playing the ball with his feet, which is something rare. You know what I mean? It's not rare. It's something really super modern, and I think he's very good. But I think that James Beadle's a better goalkeeper. However, James Beadle's on loan, so where do we go for next season, and what do we do with Pierce Charles? We've got Ben Hamer sat in the wings somewhere, doing badges, doing coaching. I would find him a loan, and then I would also, depending on how we get on in the summer, look to sell him to make some money. I know that's a really controversial opinion, but it's about time we started to make some money from our from player sales. And Chansiri's been accused in the past of clinging on to players a bit too long for a period till they're essentially worthless, and then they leave on a free. I think that there are better goalkeepers out there. I think that Piers Charles is a very good goalkeeper. None of this is, against Charles as a player. I think he's excellent. He'll do somebody very good. He could potentially, in 10 years' time, if somebody said he signed for Man City, I'd go, yeah, fair. He's exactly what they're looking for. But we don't play the football for a modern goalkeeper such as Piers Charles, if that makes sense. I think we'd like to, but I just don't think we've got the players around us to do so. And I want to make some money and I want to make the club sustainable. So I would get him a loan at a good club, top end League One, even Championship as well. I don't want him sat there playing for Mansfield or some League Two pish. I want him playing for somebody where he's gonna do bits, like Notts County, like Wrexham, those type of clubs. Let's get him to one of those where he's going to learn something and he's going to be better and he's going to be worth more going forward. And I know that's controversial, but I'm trying to think bigger picture here.
There's always the danger, though, isn't there? Because obviously there's a way that Danny Rule wants to play, and that's the Championship. If he goes down to League One, League Two, they ain't going to be playing the way that he should be wanting to play and progress. That's my issue with loaning him out. But then again, he needs to play football. And then when it comes to next season, you've obviously got Sheffield Wednesday have loaned in a 19-year-old, 20-year-old to be their first choice. So if he's not first choice next season, then when will he be first choice? So Sheffield Wednesday have shown, and Danny Rule is that he'll bring a young goalkeeper, and he's not scared of that because he's brought James Beadle in. Yes,
absolutely.
A Premier League at a Premier League team. But he's still 19/20. Yes, he's about a foot taller than Piers Charles. He is a big. When stood next to him in that photo, you could see the difference. So it'll all depend on, because if he's not good enough next season, when we'll need a goalkeeper, then when will he be good enough? Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what? I'd even argue he's better with his feet than James Beadle as well. I just feel like there's a confidence and a marshalling of the defence and things like that only comes with experience and being around better players like Beadle has been through the early part of his the now early part of his career. I just don't think we're subjecting Charles to a decent upbringing, because let's be honest, our youth system setup has been subpar for a number of years. I mean, the last group of players to come through were players like Spur, Beavers, and those guys, and Sean McAllister and people such as that. That was 14 years ago now. You know what I mean? Those players are now retiring, and we only brought them through out of necessity because we were skint at the time, and we've not really invested in our youth going forward. So I would cash in while we can, and I know that's really harsh.
I think we're probably a year early. If you're talking about getting him in next season, selling him on in the summer potentially before next season, I'd like to see him have a season with us.
But what about? But the issue is with that, Stevie, is that his stock's high now. You know what I mean? What if we wait till next season, give him the jersey, and then he stinks up the joint, and then he's worthless to us again, and now all of a sudden we're stuck with a subpar keeper. But
the counter argument to that is, what if his stock goes higher? So it is a calculated risk, isn't it? But if he comes in and continues to play international football, we get to round 5, round 6 of the FA Cup, and he is, in the shop window there, and then he comes in, I don't think he's suddenly going to turn around and, tank it next season. I think I think he gets a decent year if we can look to tie him down on the premise that he's going to be first choice goalkeeper this time. Well, July next year, we give him another contract, another 3-4 grand a week, which I know again is a risk. That's going to put the saleable market value up even more. I genuinely believe that with a good year, 18 months at Sheffield Wednesday, we could be looking at double-figure millions for this kid.
But I mean, I don't know, but I think it's not a calculator. It's probably a win-win risk, because he's not costing anything, is he? It's just his wages. He's not. It's not like we brought Beadle in on it, bought him on big money or anything. I'm sure he'll be. So I think if we're going to be needing a goalkeeper, and we've got this highly rated one, then why not play him from next summer? If we're not going to, then.
So what about short term then? Are we all saying loan?
What, in January?
But it's going to be.
it's got to be the right club, though. Like I said before, it can't just be any club that comes into him, like I don't know, a League Two club, because there's not going to be many teams going to look for a first choice goalkeeper in January, is there?
Good job.
And then the way that Sheffield Wednesday, no doubt Danny and the coaching team want him to play, because they're obviously breeding him and playing him in a way. We've seen how good he is with his feet, passing out and all that.
League One and League Two don't play from the back, do they?
So he'll get the match experience and shots fired at him all the time, but he'll not get the right playing and mentality. If that's good, or does that not matter? Does he just need to play at 19-year-old? Does he just need to play football?
No,
no doubt Northern Ireland don't play like that, do they?
I think it matters, because I think there's a difference between being brought up through the ranks at Brighton and playing alongside Premier League coach defenders, and then being brought up alongside shit kickers that are just essentially meatheads that shout their own name and clear it. You know what I mean? I feel like he needs to be playing the right football in order to grow into an elite player rather than just a player, because we discussed this on the group chat. We've seen so many people that have got these plaudits around them, and they end up signing for Grimsby and York.
Alex Hunt, Liam Shaw, via Celtic, obviously. No, because they were, and I've seen someone thing on. I know we're going off a bit topic, but Rio Shipstead, really highly rated 18 months ago, and he's not really had a look in, has he? Maybe injury and stuff, and I don't want him to go the way of. I know Liam Shaw, we've said, and Uragidi as well, which we don't. It'd be a shame that way. But then you do say, should we have got rid of Pierce Charles, like what Dan's saying, at the right time and got a couple of quid, or do we just keep hold of him and then he may drop? I don't think he will, but he may drop off.
I think with more game time for us, and I mean the rest of this season, whether that be signed with us and then going out on loan, or being the backup, the cup player, the cup goalkeeper, whatever that looks like, and then trusting him from the start of next season for at least a year, is of an age where I just foresee him going forwards and kicking on. I think he's playing international football. It'd be remiss of us not to sort of highlight the fact that he was at the Manchester City Academy. This is a kid who's got that stock, and the reason he's as good as he is with his feet is because he'll have been coached by that standard, that level. We've got a very good goalkeeper coach within the system at the moment, and I'd also argue that if he was 2-3 inches taller, and I mean this with the greatest respect to the kid, because he's listed at 6'2", he doesn't look it when when he lines up, but he's bigger than he seems to be. Or 6'1", I think it is. He's Jordan Pickford size. He doesn't look that big.
He's 5'9", and I will fight somebody if somebody tells me otherwise. Get in the bin. See, are you telling me, Steve, that if we stood next to him, he'd just be like just an inch shorter than my quid?
Mate,
get it?
Look
no
it
chance.
Up. Look it up. Look his listings
chance.
up. You look his listings up. He's clear. He clears 6 foot.
Who's made them listings? These people that make these Nigerian players bloody birth certificates. Come on, man, get in the thing.
It's on his Wikipedia, so it must be true.
I think it was stark that I said earlier about the size difference in him and Beadle on the team photo when they were stood next to each other. You can see it physically, and there is quite a big difference. So I would agree with Dan and dispute the size of
the only other thing I would say, sorry to interject, is there must be now that literally the dozens of people that are going to tune in and listen to this or watch it will probably be slating every single one of us for going, wow, you're looking to get rid of Pierce Charles. He's not even done it. Number one. I think the point we're making is, if we're going to make our club more sustainable going forward, and we are able to sort of be self-sufficient, which is a necessity now, we need to be looking at changing our philosophy and the way that we are in terms of how we approach the players that we're bringing through and how we revere them. And as great as Pierce Charles is, we need to be on a model now of recruiting young players, getting them in the academy system, smartening them up, making them look saleable, and then selling them on for a profit. Every 2-3 years. We don't fall in love with our players anymore. We've got to just realise where we are and see our team as a bit of a conveyor belt going forwards.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. Next one. Let's move on. George Barber on X. So we've done the football question. These are the real hard hitting questions that we want to get deep into. Guinness used to be £4 on the cop. It was the cheapest pint, and I used to look forward to having one on 35 minutes religiously. He says it now costs £6.30. Would you still buy the Guinness, Dan? I mean,
Are you sure you want to come to me first on this one?
Well, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a bit unfair to you because you are being of the southern. That's still cheap for you, isn't it?
Yeah. So let me come at you, bro. Let me come at you because let me give you some inside knowledge of the game here, right? Guinness at £4 is nothing short of insanity. Let's not fart around the poo. Now,
it doesn't say when it was. That could have been 1990.
Let's say it was last season before that, whatever, right? Guinness is a slow-moving product and it's got a short shelf life. When it's even shorter, you can get it cheaper from the brewery, which means you can sell it at a cheaper price. Ergo, that's probably why it was £4, because we probably had some stock left over and we've gone, that's why it's £4. Guinness costing £6.30 now. That's how much pints cost. Now, there's been a lot of thing in the news today about the freezing the tax and the tax going down a penny on a pint. No one's going to take a penny off the pint. It's not going to happen unless it's going to be some, teeth curlingly bloody naff social media thing going, how cool, we're taking the pints down a penny. Look how crazy and fun we are, which you know is going to happen. £6.30 for a Guinness is how much a pint costs. However, having said that, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, down south it's £7.20. I think it's £8.10 in one bar I used to work at, right? Now, having said that, I went down to Brentford the other day, and it was the cheapest pint in London I've ever had. It was something like £5.75 for a pint. I was like, what? It's like £2 cheaper. This is amazing. And I'm in West London. What's going on here? You know what I mean? So I think it probably cost £4 because we had a short date on it. You can buy barrels from the brewery if it's got 30 days or less written on it for a reduced price. And that's probably why we bought them for £4, sold them for £4. That's probably why, George. That's a lot more information than you thought you were going to get, isn't it?
Stevie, would you pay £6.30 for a pint of Guinness?
My preference would be not, but that is the going rate, and Dan's just made me sort of chuckle there. £5.75 for a pint, and my immediate thought was, my God, I pay more for that. I pay more for a pint in the Masons up at Wickersley now. Do you know what I mean? It's extortionate, and to the point, the penny off is absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? But to bring it back to sort of match day experiences, I'd question whether or not it's a can or draft, because they have been shifting the cans, haven't they? And I'd be more inclined to pay a little bit more for a can than I would for what comes out those pipes, to be honest with you. But
I tell you what, Steve, as well, just on one of your points there, is the Masons on a Sunday. I was about to say, is it still full of 40-year-old permatanned blokes with too much gel in their hair? But I realised I made that observation about 20 years ago, and that's now me. So without doing that jibe, is that still the Masons on a Sunday?
I don't go on a Sunday, but I would imagine that it is. To be honest with you, I see it Thursdays, I see it Fridays, the occasional Saturday. Due respect to Masons dwellers, unless your arms are covered in tattoos and you've got permatan, you are not welcome at these places. And it's spreading now, so you go to the Olive Lounge as well. So yeah.
I mean, as a purchaser of Guinness, I have numerous times at Hillsborough bought pint. Sometimes it's a nice pint, sometimes not, and it is not in a can. It is draft. £6.30. Looking at it like that is a bit disgusting. Isn't it? £5.50 now for a pint on Wednesday, and that's far superior for me. And I remember that when that was only about £4, and that I'm talking 2-3 seasons ago, if that. So it has shot up a bit. So Mr. Chansiri is trying to make the most out of us, as usual. So, right, next one. On we go. Right. Andy. So we've had a message from Andy. We haven't got a surname, but he'll know when he listens to this, if he listens. He's gone
Andy
with
McElwain, isn't it?
it may be. I don't know. Just said Andy. Be good to know your 3 most underrated players. Players who never got the recognition they deserve by our fans or media. He's offered up his 3. So Andy's gone with Mark Pembridge, Dion Burton, Kieran Lee.
Right, I'm going to fight somebody about this question. What do you mean Kieran Lee's underrated? Are you pissed?
I think he means he's never got the recognition they deserve by fans or media.
That
Now,
is
I think Kieran
absolute.
Lee-
That's the worst statement I've heard this side of 2013. Are you winding? We all love him. We all miss him, and we all think you were great. What do you mean underrated, Kieran Bloody Lee?
This is Andy's answer. So I'm sure
Well, he's wrong. He's already got the question wrong.
He'll clap back at you when you offer up yours. So who would like to go first? Or do you want to pick one each as we go?
I agree on the Kieran Lee point. Kieran Lee, if Kieran Lee had stuck around and had been injury-free, he was a better player than Barry Bannon.
He wouldn't have been at Sheffield Wednesday, would he?
No. He's too good for us. Ridiculous player.
Right, let's get into it. First one, offer up. Stevie, have you got your your Kieran Lee?
This is a wind-up, isn't it? The underappreciated, underrated player, and you've come to me first.
Right.
Let's just get it out of the way, Stevie. Let's just get it out of the way, and then we'll move on.
Liam Palmer.
Brilliant.
Oh, he can't take penalties, is he?
Leave him alone.
I implore anybody who's listening to this right now to go to about 24 minutes into this podcast and watch it on YouTube to watch Ash do his little action that he just did then. There was a move away from the microphone. There was a bash. I really enjoyed Ash. That was so uncharacteristic. That was absolutely hilarious.
And it is just a wind up of Stevie. He knows I wind him up about it all the time. But
the thing is, you know what?
Is a god, Stevie. But I know joking with jesting and everything, but for all those that don't know who Liam Palmer is and all that, but why is he one of your 3? Because there is quite a few players that you could choose from, and I know we wind you up about Palmer, but you've picked him for a reason, and you think he doesn't get the recognition or from the fans or media. And I personally think he does, but if you don't think he does.
No, I don't think he does. Yeah, we get the wind-up stuff, but you listen to the noises in the crowd whenever something happens, or you jump on social media. He's such a target, and we're outspoken. We're on podcasts, and we'll put our opinions across, whether that be on the podcast handles or whether it be me spouting nonsense or whatever it is. But there are also other people that are quite prominent on the Sheffield Wednesday hashtag, and he's a very, very easy target for a large number of people, and I don't understand why, because people will reference 2014 Liam Palmer, 19, 20, 21-year-old Liam Palmer. He can misplace a pass, and then all of a sudden it's just front, and people will jump on him. He's a guy who scored some important goals, and I'm not just talking about Peterborough. The goal against Stoke last season, the goal against Sunderland last season, the goal against Bolton when we were in League One. He scores. I'm not saying he's a Windass sort of level of important goal scorers, but he scores goals that are important, and he's a bit of a clutch player at times. It's well documented, in my opinion, that whilst people deride him to an extent and people would see him out, and every time his contract comes up, you'll hear people saying, don't offer him another contract. It's time for him to move on. He's too old. Let's see him gone, blah, blah, blah. We've gone from Dave Jones having him in. We've gone through Stuart Gray. Forgive me, I'm assuming it's Dave Jones. I haven't done the research. I believe it was Dave Jones that brought him in, way back when. We've gone through Stuart Gray. We've gone through Carlos. We've gone through Steve Bruce. We've gone through Chisco. The last 3-4 managers, including the current one, have seen at various points that he's not necessarily the player that they want to move forwards with, but he just plays his way back into the team. He plays his way back into recognition. He plays his way back into the manager's thinking, and he's done that with the last 3-4 coaches, managers that we've had, and I just feel that we say it a lot. You know, he's a 7 out of 10 every week, but for me, he's one of ours. I've said it time after time after time. I don't think he gets the recognition he deserves, and I don't think he plays as badly as people make out.
And Fudge?
I'm not following up that with a counterpoint about Liam Palmer. Stevie's very passionate about it, but I'm gonna.
Just your player.
So my
we could
player.
be here all night. We could have a.
So I win. I've won.
You can have it. You can have it. Chalk that off as a win. You can have it.
See you next week.
One of my players is Danny Wilson. Now, when I started to watch football in the late 80s, early 90s, I remember seeing Danny Wilson playing a marauding midfield role. He was an absolute terrier. He'd dive into everything. He'd spread the ball. He didn't mind having a touch and a pass and a couple of, slot him out to the right and left. He was a dynamic player. I used to really enjoy watching Danny Wilson. He used to, as like a 12-year-old kid, he used to get me excited. I was off my seat. Well, I was stood up then, right? But I was like, this is great. This guy, who's this guy? But I think because he's gone on to have such a average managerial career and then obviously managed the Blades at some point, I think he gets forgotten about.
I'm going to offer up something a little bit different, I think. Not a player, but just, do you not think you've just mentioned Danny Wilson and then Stevie's gone the polar opposite of obviously Liam Palmer, two different eras of football? Mm-hmm. So now you're going to go into the social media side. Stevie mentioned it there, didn't you? About it's so easy to derive or even build up a player. Danny Wilson is obviously of a certain age, is an older player. You've not got that.
You've not got people online talking about him.
Yeah, and you've not got that. With the handful of when I was a kid growing up, you've got David Hurst, Chris Waddle, John Sheridan. You've got the mainstay of every time there's a goal and it's Waddle putting Giggsy on his ass, taking him on, or you've got a free kick, it's Dink. You've got David Hurst and obviously playing for England and stuff.
Knocking shit fingers.
You've got all that, but then you have got a raft of players behind that. Nigel Worthington, for me,
great.
I think he's cracking, but you won't get the social media on it. But I still think he deserves all the recognition. But
bear in mind, though, at the time we had Roland Nilsson as well playing on the other side, and you kind of like he got outshone by Roland Nilsson, and it's not like Worthington was terrible on the other side of the pitch. And then in that same breath, you've got people like Phil King as well, and those types of players. And I nearly put Mark Bright in mine because I was like, I don't think he gets remembered as well as what he should do. But then that's got that hint of Kieran Lee from the original question on it, because I bet there's people sat there going, "What, Mark Bright? You're off your head, Fudge."
Yeah. And that's where I'm coming at. You've got, sorry, Stevie, you've got that. It's a hard question, because if you ask somebody 20 plus 25-year-old who's grown up in the last 10 years of social media, their outlook would be totally different. And the question of well, we all know, and if it is Andy McKell, we know Andy, and he's gone obviously Pembridge, Burton, and then Kieran Lee. Now that is a crossover period, I think that is, from the old guard, should we call them, to the new social media of the last 10, 15 years.
I get it. I get what you mean. It's a weird crossover, I think, from those original. If you say Pembridge, Burton, Kieran Lee, there's only one of those players I think would fit into that underrated category, and it's Dion Burton, because he played for Rotherham and he played a bit lower level. But I thought he was a really underrated striker. Mark Pembridge was shit, and Kieran Lee was brilliant. Like, you know what I mean? There's only one in that question that works.
Yeah. Stevie, can you? Sorry, go on. Your next player, or do you want something to add to that? Sorry,
No. Are we doing 3 each, or are we just doing 3? Because I was going to do an honourable mention.
You can go on. You can do an honourable mention.
The honourable mention I was going to mention. I can't believe Dan hasn't plumped for Ian Nolan.
He's on my list. I've got 3. I've got Ian Nolan, Danny Wilson, and Emerson Tome. Now, Emerson Tome
Emerson Tome's an interesting one.
Emerson Tome is the Kieran Lee of that list, right? Because I think he was actually good and we actually cut a profit on him, right? Emerson Tome was a very good player, but he just don't really get spoken about. He's not in that. He didn't get spoken about because it was a weird era that he played for the club where we were kind of on the down low. But he was great. He was absolutely bloody brilliant. But I just wish people talked about him more because that's the day I went, I want to play centre back just like him. You know what I mean? He had I realised I weren't as quick as Des Walker, so I have to play like he does.
Yeah, and I was just going to get I know we didn't. Des Walker was just a couple of years after, but is it because of the whole? You've got to win something to be appreciated.
Maybe.
Because we haven't. If I know we got promotion from League One, which for me, a fantastic day, but it's not really winning a cup or being in semi-finals or anything like that. It's a bit different. I don't think that group of players will be held in regard with certain people, but won't be as us oldies remember. And they always say about you go on about the 91, the 93 teams, like that. But I think Emerson Tome is brilliant. I totally agree with you, Dan. He is a not just underrated, just forgotten player. He's a forgotten player, I think. He's a group of them that we had really good players, and even better, like you say, we made a profit on him. We sold him at the right time. We made some money, but it's totally different now, and it will be in 10 years when social media is probably even bigger than it is, and we're talking about this group of players or players from the last 3-4 years. I don't know. I just don't know what. There is no right, wrong answer, and we didn't laugh. Kieran Lee is from that old school, and it's an easy answer. That's the wrong answer, Kieran Lee from Andy. I was going to say Antonio, Mikel Antonio.
He's underrated.
Yes, because not
show you working on that one.
Recognition again. Is from a bit before. I don't think he gets the what. No, I don't think you see on social media people talk. You don't see anyone talking about Mikel Antonio for Sheffield Wednesday, do you?
No, because
I think that's because he's gone on and done bigger things in the Premier League for more. His profile went up, didn't it? I think that's the thing. I know what you're saying.
You could say the same for Di Canio then, couldn't you? He went on to a bigger team at West Ham, and West Ham. For me, I know we're going a little off topic, but when you see Di Canio, he's for me, he's always West Ham. West Ham's his team, and when they revere him, but for Sheffield Wednesday fans, he was held in much regard. Obviously, his off-field stuff, that's a total different thing. But as a Sheffield Wednesday player, he's gone on to bigger things, but he's still thought of as a Sheffield Wednesday. Him and Carbone. So. That's for me, but hey.
The other one I've mentioned Palmer. The other main I've got two from slightly different fields that step into the area we were talking about in terms of that post 91 post Premier League. But there's one before that as well. The first one is Paul Williams.
Great one.
Yeah, I think he kind of just, because his profile kind of just lowered and lowered and lowered. After leaving Wednesday, he wasn't really spoken about again. But for that year, 18 months when Hurst was bursting onto the scene, if you like, he was an ideal foil for David Hurst. He did a lot of legwork. He did a lot of bits around. And then those two as a partnership, I thought was absolutely brilliant as a kid getting into Wednesday. And
I think Paul Williams is a perfect shout for underrated player because he is the player that I use, Stevie, to check out if somebody knows ball. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, oh, I'm a Sheffield Wednesday fan. What? And you're in your early 40s, mid 40s at least, and you're like, oh, what do you think about Paul Williams? If their answer isn't he did a lot of Hurst's legwork, I'm not talking to you about football. Not talking to
you. Yeah. And my last one, I'm going to get my hard hat on here. My last one in terms of underrated. Whew, here we go. Adam Reach.
And you
You're gonna
looked
have to
in the you went there, Steve. You went like this when I mentioned Antonio, and I'm doing that to you, mate, because you are. I know what Dan's going to say. You are going to have to do some work here, mate.
Show your working. Show your working on that one.
Yeah, countdown. Show your workings out. I don't believe you got the numbers.
He's not going to go down as a Wednesday legend. He's not going to go down as, you know, the best player of his era. And I'm not necessarily suggesting he was worth his £5 million price tag. But I think history will remember him less fondly than he deserves it. And I know that the circumstances around him leaving it, you know, in the COVID era and all of that, and him, you know, bottling it to an extent, if you want to call it that. However, you know, when we talk about Adam Reach being a lazy so-and-so and him being this, that and the other, there were as many good things that he did as there were poor things, and he played a lot out of position. He went through the Lukai era. You know, he was very much transitional in that, you know, where we are from Carlos and Wembley to sort of arching forwards to going down under Darren Moore, if you like. He wasn't the best player at the time, but I think he gets a little bit more hate than he deserves.
That's an interesting one. I think.
I don't
disagree.
disagree.
Do you reckon, for me, I think he's going to be remembered for shit pingers. You know, the outrageous goals that he'd score. And I think that might outweigh the negativity of, like you say, he was perceived to be lazy, he did X, Y, Z. And I think, I agree with you, Stevie. I think he will get this crap. But then I think there will be a portion of fans that go, oh, can you remember? And when the social, and I'm going to get, when that gets in, his goals will come up. So, you know, like every 6 months, because I think like Sky do one and others say, oh, can you remember 2015 when Sheffield Wednesday had their own
goal of the season? Yeah.
I think that in his will keep him going. But I don't know about underrated.
Maybe retrospectively underappreciated then.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he did say underrated and didn't get the recognition from fans or media. So, and yours, the last one was Ian Nolan, Dan, was it?
Yeah, I'm not justifying Ian Nolan. People that know ball know Ian Nolan. I'm not going to sit here and show me working on Ian Nolan.
Right, moving on to the next question. This is from Ben Leonard. He of the amazing bets. Here we go. In the fictional Sheffield Wednesday Olympics, which current or past player would win gold in these following events?
Go on.
A, diving.
Right.
B, synchronized sulking.
So hang on, do I need to name more than one player for synchronized sulking?
No, just the one. And
so
then,
who am I synchronize it with?
Me when Liam Palmer gets hammered.
So, all right.
Most dramatic injury recovery.
Wow. Okay.
These are niche categories in this Olympics. So we'll name all our first. So first one was diving. So current,
diving.
past or current player that would win a gold in diving. Who wants to go first? Come on.
I think we'll all have the same one.
Dan Fudge first.
Gordon Watson.
Brilliant.
Tell me you ain't got Gordon Watson.
I had Gordon Watson gold. For obvious reasons. I've gone gold, silver, bronze. I've gone Gordon Watson gold for the reason. I went silver. I've gone Shef Kikuchi.
Brilliant.
Just for ridiculous gold celebrations. And then third one, I just went, right, if we had somebody...
How can I show on Palmer in?
when you go diving, you think shithousery. And the guy that just popped into my head in terms of shithousery was Chris Maguire.
Chris Maguire.
I was going to go Stockdale. I just thought Stockdale. I think he's the biggest shithouse I've seen for years.
I was going to go Stockdale, but I've saved him for a different category.
That's a really good question, that, because it's how you perceive it. Because I thought diving, taking a dive, Gordon Watson. Yeah. You thought diving goalkeeper, and you thought diving celebration. I thought that's really interesting. I didn't see that coming.
I went Watson. I'm going to say Dan. So 2 out of the 3. So
friend of the show.
Yeah. Next one, synchronized sulking.
I actually did go too, and I just had this sort of mental image of 1998 Sheffield Wednesday and thought, the Italians, Paolo and Benito, if we were going to have a competition where there'd be synchronized sulking, we'd get them throwing their arms up and giving it all this, what, that, and the other. Those two sort of late 90s would have been great. So they were the ones for me, and the other ones, I'm just thinking. Big sulkers, who are the people that have pissed me off with their sort of attitude and their non-commitment. Fessy. Forestieri, around the whole Norwich stuff.
Yes.
And dare I say it, George Hurst.
Ooh. Good one.
That's a good one. Dan?
I literally had Benito, Paolo and Fernando. I have literally those. I have nothing to add. I was like, I think that's there for everybody to see, in it. But like the interesting one is the non-committal stuff that Stevie said, because Barry Bannon can sulk like the best of them, but for a different reason. Like not because he's chucked his arms up and gone fuck this. It is like he's sulking because he just wants to win, and so like a different way of doing it. But I still went with those three that end in vowels.
I think I totally agree with all players that he's in, but the non-committal and sulking. I was trying to change it up and go for a current player. I was trying to think, and I don't think that it's total different breed, aren't they? I don't think I get what you said about Bannon. I get that, but his sulking would not be what we interpret it. Yeah. The only one. But I don't know. It looks like he could. Marvin Johnson. I mean, he could.
Yeah, there was all that Ipswich stuff in January, wasn't there? But there was one I was going to add that was that we still don't know the details on. It's been a number of years now. Is Alman Abdi? Was that a sulk, or was he genuinely a broken player? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't put it in there with a certain amount of confidence, if I'm honest.
No. And the last one is most dramatic injury recovery. That's an hard one, this one, I think. I mean,
this is why I didn't mention Stockdale in the shithousing diving bit, because the number of times he'd go down and feign injury, kill the game, bit of time wasting. So again, I've gone gold, silver, bronze. It's quite tough, this one, and you can put them in any order. Stockdale for those reasons. I went a bit of artistic license and went a little bit down the old what if. What if David Hurst didn't have the injuries that he'd had? I know it's a little bit boring, but
it's the use of the word dramatic. It's how you
dramatic recovery. That word, exactly that. How dramatic would it have been if David Hurst didn't get sold to Man United? We turned down that offer, and then he went on for the next 2 years and became the player that folklore will remember Alan Shearer became. Where would that put Sheffield Wednesday 10, 15, 20 years later? And I'd argue that we'd be at a different point to potentially where we are now. And the other one, a serious one, Sam Hutchinson, would run through brick walls and would play through pain. And from a serious, I'm injured, but I'm going to make a comeback sort of thing, I'd say Sam Hutchinson.
He's another player that I reckon we wouldn't have had a chance if he was 100%. Without his injuries like Kieran Lee. So I think, I think Sam Hutchinson's great, and it's a great way you've twisted that and took it that way. And because I was looking at it going dramatic, and I'm trying to think of moments in matches or time, when someone's gone up and they've feigned being elbowed in head, and when you look at
actual drama.
There's nothing in it, or there's one of them where they threw on goal and he's pulled up, and it's like I couldn't think of anything. So it was a hard one for me, that, to be honest. So I think you've done really well with that, Stevie. Right. I've got. You don't know about this one.
Are you not asking me mine? Are you doing yours?
No. Go on. No, Dan, go on. Apologies.
Because you were talking about going a different way and how you interpret the play, how you interpret the question. Because
No,
dramatic
sorry.
injury. Do you remember there was a rumour around Hillsborough for about 5 years that Patrick Kluivert was having a medical? How injured was he? And that's who I got. I had Patrick Kluivert written down. Like, is he crocked, the lad? What's happened? Has anybody been to see him? Have we put a dust cloth over him and forgot he's there? I had that for a dramatic
I remember
injury.
that one. Yeah.
It just didn't go away, that rumour, did it? And like Patrick Kluivert was one of the elite strikers in the world at that point as well. And we were like, yeah he's coming to Wednesday. Him and Davor Suker.
Only because Davor Suker scored towards the away end against Schmeichel, weren't it, in the Euro 96?
96,
Yeah, it was good. Right, I've got one last question, guys. You didn't know about this, but I'm going to throw it in because I'm having such a good time. Right. Can you name your favourite
Liam Palmer. I'm sorry.
Your favourite pre-2000 cartoon?
Oh.
And then your favourite, I know we're old men, like, but everyone likes cartoons. Your favourite post-2000 cartoon?
Interesting question, that, because if you'd have gone pre like 1990, it'd have been E-Man. No hesitation, E-Man. Cities of Gold was trash. Thundercats got boring.
Whoa, shut up. Do not trash Cities of Gold.
Cities of Gold was intrinsically rubbish, but we just all like the theme tune. Let's not fuck about. Like, you know what I mean? Come on, we all know that's what it was.
The clouds went one way and his hair went the other.
Ridiculous. So,
but don't trash it.
If you'd have said pre-1990, I'd have said E-Man. However, I really like Cartoon Network went through this resurgence in the late 90s where they brought out Powerpuff Girls, Johnny Bravo. They brought out a Ace Ventura cartoon where he constantly used to talk out of his backside, and I found that the funniest thing I'd ever seen. So, sat here in a black T-shirt, having now been to the gym with a quiff, Johnny Bravo, 100%. I used to think it was great. Post 2000, you're gonna have to let me think about.
Stevie, your pre-2000 cartoon.
Pre-2000, I'd toss a coin between Dogtanian and Willy Fogg, 80 Days Around the World.
Oh, no, my jam. See, we might
I think, lads,
but we know our cartoons.
Lads, you've just picked cartoons that have good theme tunes. It was a staple of the 80s. Dogtanian, all right, I had some decent,
class.
Some decent storylines, and they used to go la 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 la. Da, 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 da. And that was a weird bit because let's get to the one for all and one for all bit, right? And then 80 Days Around the World, Willy Fogg, absolute banger. But do you remember the and then the bit where it cuts to look at me, I'm Brigadon. Like, yeah. But like, if you always remember, they used to ask that little mouse what time it was, and 100% of the time it was always, "Hey, it's 3 o'clock on the dot," and he'd hang in that like rubbish. It was shit.
No
shit cartoon.
I think you had just a shy childhood.
Oh,
E-Man all the way, and the real.
I am. To be fair, I am of an age that I can remember. Oh God, pre-Sky, like your school holidays, you'd have "Why Don't You" on BBC.
Right.
So your school, so you'd have Top Cat. Remember Top Cat?
Yeah.
Which was essentially the Phil Silvers show, right? It was essentially
yeah. So Top Cat was decent. I had a bit of time for that, and I know it was about the theme. I can remember coming home from school and being proper into Ulysses as well.
Again, utter shit, but the theme tune was absolute banger. Absolutely.
They get to the end all the time, and then they'd just be hanging in that room, and you'd be like, "What the fuck?"
So you got Catch the Pigeon, amazing, amazing. Obviously, then if you like that, you've got what's the car one?
Wacky Racers.
Wacky Racers, aren't you? Penelope Pitstop, Dick Dastardly, all that sort of stuff. And I'm trying to remember the name of it, and I have not got a clue. So
describe it. Let's send everybody stupid at home. Don't jump in, Stevie. Let's have the people listening in the car going, "It's that for fuck's sake."
Animated.
Yep.
They were like knights or soldiers or something. And they
I've
had
got it in my head already. Yep, I know exactly what it is. There's people screaming now.
And they used to like change into an animal or something, and they used to have like stats as well with all things.
Know exactly which one it is. Margaret Thatcher was referred to one as all the time.
And then there was like Brave Star as well. That was a favourite. But now we're going right into the depths of my childhood. Here.
Pick your favourite there, Ash.
And mate, I've got loads. Post 2000 then. So this is a bit harder because this is when
easy.
So I'd have been
hard.
Going on 21, so I'm like adult-ish. So I shouldn't really be watching cartoons, but hey, go on then, Stevie. Easy for you.
Ben and Holly. Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom.
Gaston.
Right, you've got kids here. This is cheating. Because I was sat there going, I was 20-year-old, for fuck's sake. I weren't watching cartoons by then.
So for people that don't know, and I'm sure the majority of people, if you know Ben and Holly, you'll know the sort of the genesis of it and where it's come from. Ben and Holly was created by the same people that created Peppa Pig. I fucking hate Peppa Pig. I absolutely despise Peppa Pig. I don't get it. It goes against everything that, you know, from a familial, from a parenthood sort of thing. Awful. And then when the girls were born, we fell upon baby TV, and you had Charlie and the Numbers and all of this. And then as they got to sort of toddlerhood, once they got past In the Night Garden, Ben and Holly. So their nighttime routine would be me and Louise would sit with the girls and we'd watch Ben and Holly. And over time you'd get into it. And the storylines and the things, honestly, it's 10 minutes of a load of little people living, but some of the one-liners in there and the characters around it and just the ideas. Ben and Holly was absolutely genius.
I'll see you, Ben and Holly, and I'm gonna raise you Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Hot dog, hot diggity do. I've got a video of Shadrach when he was about a year old dancing in front of telly to that, and that's saving it for his 18th.
Well, I was sat there going, is it going to be Family Guy? Is it going to be American Dad? Like that. And you absolutely done me there with like kids shows. Like I've seen like a couple of clips online because do you remember when I think it was the 2018 World Cup where is it Dougie? Hey Dougie had that kick.
Yeah.
Kick. I thought that was quite cool. I quite enjoyed that. But I was going to sit here and go, it's an easy answer, but Rick and Morty, because I find it really unique in the way it's done, and there's not really a show like it. But fuck you, Per. Fuck you, Mickey. Mugging me off of that man's cartoon knowledge. I'm angry about it.
Right, I tell you. Brilliant, mate. You want to get into it? Having kids, Dan. You want to get to watch all the cartoons, but yeah. That's it. We've had all the questions. I'm sure we'll get another mixed bag next time. But thank you for joining us on this episode of Q&A. As always, if you like what we do, please like, subscribe, and yeah, follow us all on the socials. You know, do all that good stuff. Thank you very much. Right, you know what to do next time. Get your questions in if you want to know all about your childhood cartoons or who's not rated by the Wednesday fans.
Shoe people.
Oh, yes.
Elite soundtrack.
Raggy Dolls as well.
Raggy Doll. Banger.
Well. Banger. Right. Then we're still going. We're going to be all right after.
Stevie remembers Pod. Oh, Bod. He remembers Bod.
Was it like Pod or out?
Yeah,
Pod. There was Pod.
Yeah.
But you remember Bod.
Guys, no one wants to do this. I want to log off. Right, everyone, thank you very much. We'll be back for our weekly show on Monday.
Let's pretend.
Yeah, we do that every week.
I'm done.
We're off. Thank you very much. Bye.
Every week, live from 8 p.m. It's the Wednesday week. Bringing you football analysis.
He came in. I think he scored a goal.
Bringing you banter.
Yeah.
Bringing you responsible life hacks.
Met you wonderful souls at 10 a.m. for some shots.
The Wednesday week. 1, 2, 3, 4 live. Available on all social medias.
Obviously, this goes out on YouTube and as well as all the other social media out there, podcasts, etc.
The Wednesday Week 24-25 season. Join us.
Put on your podcast.